I'm excited to talk a little bit about NatureSolve, but also about microbiology and some other things. I wanted to start this morning sharing a story about how I got here, and I don't mean here specifically or even at the National Algae Association meeting. I mean here in the commercial sector, talking about microbiology, bacteria and fungi. And it was back in 2015, I got invited to a meeting. It was the Regional Response Team 9 meeting for conversations about the Gold King disaster. And the conversations were to be mostly about, what is it that we could do to mitigate some of the problems that were stemming from there. And mid-meeting, another conversation started about a small mine in Jackson, California that had gone bankrupt, and this mine was breaking, and the EPA was monitoring how fast that dam was breaking, and everybody was conversating about what the damage would be for this small town below. And the DOD was there, the White House was on the phone, the state of California was there, the EPA, brilliant minds trying to figure this out. And nobody could figure out how to not only address it, but even to alert the town, because there was nothing, including my even processes, not even product, we weren't there yet, but processes that were allowed because there were some inhibitive policies from the past. And so we were all frustrated and went to lunch, and we sat down and talked more as humans just about how frustrating it was to be there, showing up to do a job and not being allowed to, not being able to, and then knowing that we also had nothing we could do to help those people. And so I also became, friends with a couple of the people that were working there, and they said, because of these policies, our recommendation is you go into the public sector, you go commercial, and then you come back to government once we've gotten down the road. And true to their word, that was quite a while back, but 2018 we started to see that shift. And so let me introduce NatureSolve and what we're doing there. So first off, this is one nature-based solution. And why are we talking about NatureSolve? NatureSolve is a blend of bacteria and fungi, and we like to use them because they're the guys in nature already doing the work. And so if we can identify their strong suits, then we can help put them to work in a way that is malleable, scalable, and also provides us with exponential labor, if you will, from them. Our process, our basics are we do a needs analysis, so we determine what it is that needs to be done. We do testing if needed, whether it's in soil or in a waterway. We look at product volumes and application methods, and then we figure out how to do the application, do it, and we say, okay, now wait till we see what's next. And one of the things that is both wonderful and difficult about biology is that it is malleable, and so it changes with each environment, and so that observation and determining what's next is important. Bacteria and fungi are also great at collaboration, and we try to mimic that in our company. We're great companions for a broad range of technologies and processes, as Corden mentioned, and we also increase cross-collaboration by enabling solutions that have downstream effects or other components that can be added on to add exponential value or speed up processes. Some of our intended outcomes are sustained nutrient reduction, really rapid organic deconstruction, and that one's really fun to watch, hydrocarbon elimination, and heavy metal reductions or eliminations as well. These are some examples of source point reductions that we've had. Up in the left is Pace Ranch, and this is in Park City, Utah. We were able to go in and treat the pastures, which had just a ton of runoff from the fertilizers being used to try to stimulate that growth in a very dry environment. Park City was actually very mad because Walt Plum, who owns this property, sold them the property that developed Park City, and this is what his trust land looked like, mostly because of chemicals and runoff, also because of just the native wildlife, the climate there. So we were able to go in, treat the pastures as well as the shorelines and that island you see in the middle to get to the waterways, and decrease the effects of that nutrient runoff, while also, if you see down at the bottom, increasing natural wildlife. There was ducks, baby ducks. I used to get to go up there, and the sandhill crane. All of the native plant life started to return, and Walt has actually been able to now expand on that pond. I don't know if he's finished it just yet, but he's digging a much larger area. Up in the right also shows that when you introduce microbiology and you decrease the amount of nutrient runoff, you have an opportunity to also increase your yield with less water and less fertilizers. We did that in Walt's pastures, and he drastically was able to decrease the amount of feed he was buying, which also has exponential environmental benefits. And some of those other photos also show a fish farm in Richfield, Utah, and then some other farms that we've had the opportunity to work on for hemp, and in small garden towers. That's the USANA Foundation, also out of Utah, but they do amazing work around the world. This is a couple other examples of companies that use our product. These are not our statements or things that we have done, but these are companies that utilize our products. The one at the bottom is kind of funny because the neighbor's lawn care company versus us is one of the people on the Natura team, and he and his neighbor used to use the same lawn care company, and now he's using far less or no fertilizers. I don't know exactly which, but far less, and because his lawn care company does it. But the neighbor's lawn still looks absolutely terrible. They've stuck to their program. So here's a sample 21-day timeline on what treating for nutrients looks like. First, we want to determine runoff areas. So instead of going in and saying, okay, we're going to treat everywhere the same, we go in and we look for the areas with animals. On Walt's Pond, there was a very specific area that geese liked to sit. So we look for that. We look for the fertilizer runoff zones. We look for how vegetation falls. So if there's lots of leaves or cattails or phragmites in one area, you're going to see accumulation in those areas. So we're going to pay attention to those. We're also going to pay attention to aeration and oxygen needs if necessary. And what we're trying to accomplish here is helping to decrease the amount of chemicals needed, decrease the amount of runoff, but also put those nutrients back into the soil with healthy bacteria and fungi that can stimulate processes and regrow in even really tough areas. We also ask the customer, or a company, what are they trying to accomplish and what barriers might exist for them. The managing of expectations is also important because people get excited once they realize what can happen. And I like to view bacteria and fungi as kind of like the duct tape for the planet. Sometimes they can help us get processes back together, but we don't necessarily need to rely on them for everything. And so with the geese at Walt Plum's Pond, instead of only treating there every year and doing it because that's where they live, we went and planted trees in other places so they thinned out. And so there wasn't so much accumulation in an area with less aeration. So we try to look at not just how do we treat today, but manage expectations for what we're capable of, and then help augment that by additional regenerative or natural processes. As noted in the slide 2, we go through the treatment process that needs analysis all the way through to application. And then for the first treatment, we recommend checking in at 7, 14, and 21 days to track progress, because every environment is different. If we go into southern Utah, for example, and it's absolute desert, that is going to have a different response in how the product works and in how much is necessary to help eliminate that nutrient runoff, or how to augment or offset fertilizers in the first place, and also how to treat shorelines or waterways if necessary. And we also watch for any additional accumulation or things that we may have not seen on the first time around, and then we analyze it after that treatment period. We analyze it at 21 days to determine any areas with additional notable needs. We look at odor, soil, and water, and we continue expanding into those regenerative practices that I was mentioning. Let's see if it'll let me go to the next slide. There we go. Here's a few of our outcomes. We have extensive amounts of reports, but for time's sake, please reach out to me if you would like to look at in-depth reports. I tried to take these all from different sources. So these are single treatments at approximately 7 days after treating. We have some reports that blow these ones out of the water and some that don't get as far there. And those are different variables like the climate, the water that's available, humidity in the air. I recently went to the Philippines, and that environment compared to Utah, night and day. And so we look at those things and adjust. But this gives you a few examples. Excuse me. That bucket in the bottom I included because it's funny. The odors in organics, they start on contact. If you utilize the soil mix or water mix, which are the same product labeled for soil or for water, but they're the same components that make them. And when you add them to compost, and in this instance it was pig waste, it was from a piggery in the Philippines, they put that bucket, filled it with nastiness, and then they added a couple drops of our product to some water in that bottle and poured it. And now I've seen this experiment done a lot of times. Usually it's done actually in a closed space where people are presenting and they kind of gross out the whole room, pour in the product, and the odor is gone. But in this case, this was out live and outside with older waste, and we actually saw all flies just immediately start vacating. They crawled up the side of the bucket, flew away, and never came back. And throughout our presentations, people always go stick their head in that bucket to see if the smell is still gone. And it is absolutely hilarious, but it never comes back. This is me, Jennifer, at CEO at Natura. And today I did come to talk mostly about Natura and also to support the Algae Association and the different members that come. I'm a huge fan of what we're doing here, and Barry and I had an opportunity to speak and recently, and one of the things is also I'm setting aside for a minute the company and the organization and everything there, but back to that story at the beginning, I'm also a mom. And so when I think about what we're faced with and I look at all of the opportunities that we have, right now I'm in this mobile office because I'm bringing my daughter on her first part of her trek to Rhode Island to go study biotech. Her friend with her is also already in astrophysics right now and wants to go to NASA. So from base of the earth to the stars, these guys sit around me and I listen to this and I think, why do we need the government to clean our water when we could be utilizing them instead? Utilizing the great minds I met at the EPA. Brian Hummel would be a great example. Right now he's out doing volunteer work to mitigate floodwaters, making groundwater liability into an asset, and doing the work is really what's going to get us there. And we don't have any time to wait. All of us that are here know that we have to have these solutions. And so I'd like to propose that we start bridging that gap between policy and policymakers and nature-based solutions, because we quite frankly do not have the time for our own lifestyles, and our children definitely do not have the time for us to wait. And hopefully our grandkids one day will be, annoyed that we were arguing about semantics at a time that's so mission critical, because any one word can mean a lot of things, and how your inflection can make it mean something different. But the fact of the matter is we can stop a lot of these disasters, help mitigate a lot of them by thinking through utilizing nature-based solutions and leveraging the incredible research and reporting and historical data that the government has to offer, in conjunction with foundations like Barry's organizations to help move the ball forward, and with innovators and technologies that really need that help getting through the initial stages of innovation and implementation. So does anybody have any questions either about NatraSolve or anything I covered?
Can I add one thing to what you said, Jennifer?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's hitting me really personally right now because in Des Moines, Iowa, they've just put on the news that don't drink the water, don't use the water. The nitrates are so high right now, and limit your water use and don't irrigate your yard so they don't have to overtax, because there's not enough water there to dilute the nitrates that are in it right now, so it's not even possible to go in. So the frustrating and exciting thing about that is the very large city I've worked with that has shown how with Jennifer stuff by itself, the nitrates are gone in 5 days. When you look at Jennifer's NatraSolve combined with some of the other things I've discussed and how they're gone in 12 days or 16 days or just depending, and it's all nature-based, the solutions are there. The time to hem and the time to ha is done. Right now, I just went and brushed my teeth this morning in my sink, and I'm like, what am I doing? The cancer, when it's above 5, and they're at 19 right now in Iowa on the nitrate levels, acting is now, and talking and over-testing and everything else is then. So we appreciate everyone's help, and thank you.
Thanks, Corey.
Can you hear me?
All right, thank you.
Yes.